Alright, hi everyone, I'm Nightingale. This is part 2 of my unpopular but popular K-pop opinions series. Thanks for being here, and let's get right into the video. This is just calling out YG groups. From what I've seen and actually heard, when comparing 21, Blackpink, and the newest group Baby Monster, it just seems like the newer groups are just copies of the older group. Not gonna lie, I really like 21's concept when they debuted. They went against the cutesy norm for girl groups and had a stronger image. They disbanded way too early in my opinion. But then Blackpink debuted, and immediately I just thought they're a younger and more palatable version of 21. Like, all their songs seem to be rejected 21 songs. Also, since they have been using the same producer, I think his name is Teddy, it makes sense why all the songs sound the exact same. YG needs to change the producers and songwriters that the company uses so that the girl groups don't fall into the trap of sounding the exact same as each other. When I heard Sheesh by Baby Monster, I just noticed how similar the song would look and sound if it was Blackpink singing. Like, one girl I thought sounded exactly like Jennie. There's no creativity or originality here. If you've listened to K-pop for a while, then you know about Sasang fans. If you didn't know, Sasang fans are stalkers who usually stalk a group or a specific member of a group. They're usually the weirdos that you see taking pictures of idols at airports. Some of them even board their exact flights. They even work at airports to get closer to the idols that they're stalking. They also buy and sell the personal info of these idols, like their phone numbers, addresses, and even harass family members. What they do is absolutely disgusting and should be called out. But they're almost always ignored. The only example I've seen of a stalker being stopped is the Josh guy. I don't want to talk too much about him since he's actually a terrible person, and he ended up going on the same flight as Twice members. A manager stopped him from getting too close, but no one else has been handled this way. I want to see these crazy stalkers actually be sued or blacklisted from ever stepping foot near idols, in airports or even public events, since they actively put these idols in danger. I mean, imagine you were the idol in this situation. They're probably very uncomfortable and scared and stressed out. But since the companies rarely pursue legal action or blacklist these stalkers, they continue to show up. This behavior needs to be addressed publicly. Okay, so this point kind of relates to the last one, but I've seen people on Twitter who are completely fine with seeing the same 10 people going to fan signs and fan calls, and this is totally wrong. Fan signs and fan calls are already hard to get into, depending on the popularity of that group or idol, and seeing the same people go to every single one is annoying. Like, most fans would love to actually have a chance to talk to their favorite idol for even 1 or 2 minutes, but because of these stalkers who buy like so many albums, they never have a chance. A part of why I think this is stalking is because of the fact they buy like hundreds of albums to guarantee a spot for the fan sign or fan call. No one who has a healthy interest in a group or idol will buy 200 albums just to see that idol. This to me stems from mental illness or just an emptiness they're trying to fill by spending their money or their parents' money, let's be real here, on random idols. I don't care that they're spending their own money on albums, that's their own choice, but they're actively cheating their way into an idol interaction. Not to mention the fact that there have been plenty of instances where the idol is clearly disinterested in the stalker fan, and you can see it in the fan call. Then they post these fan call or fan sign videos on TikTok trying to brag that they saw the certain idol. They're so delusional that they think people are jealous. They think a simple compliment from the idol means the idol is in love with them. I mean, delusion is crazy, y'all. The delusion is really crazy. They also usually have social media accounts where they constantly talk about the idols that they see basically every other month and only about them. Like, their entire life revolves around these idols. This is clearly stalker behavior. Then they try to say that they're not stalking since it's a public event. They travel the entire world and all 7 continents to see these idols. This is 100% stalking. This is an unhealthy obsession with a person, which is the definition of stalking. I have a favorite group, obviously, but I do not talk about them 24/7. I have a life outside of K-pop and would never in my life try to go to every fan call or every concert of my favorite group. But these stalker fans are stuck in their own bubbles and usually enable other stalkers who behave the exact same way. Also, the people that they're friends with do the exact same things, so they're just stuck in their own tunnel vision. K-pop companies need to blacklist these stalker types from interacting with the idols and set a limit on how many fan calls or fan signs that you can attend. Okay, so K-pop companies need to stop making 10 different versions of the same exact album. This one is calling out every group since all of them, I'm pretty sure, do multiple versions of the same album. If I'm wrong, y'all can correct me, but most of them do this. This is not the fault of the groups themselves, but it's clear it's just a cash grab method for the companies. They're very greedy and do not care about the fact that these physical albums create so much more plastic waste that ends up in landfills, not to mention the fact that the most physical albums are useless. Everyone streams music nowadays and people rarely use the CDs, so what else are we buying the album for? Maybe for the photo book, but even then we don't need to waste paper since digital albums with digital photos can be sold anyway. I think there's no need since CDs are adding to the waste issue and everything can be seen online now. I have definitely have had multiple versions of a couple albums, but they're just sitting on my shelf collecting dust. Let's just get rid of them and use digital albums instead. There's already enough waste piling up and messing up the environment. Photo card collection encourages people vulnerable to addictive behavior to spend money. So I actually saw this on Reddit somewhere, and I have to say it made me stop and really think about photo card collection. I personally do not collect photo cards, but know people that do, and even though it seems like an innocent hobby, I definitely see why it can be seen as encouraging young people to be addicted to collect photo cards and normalizing it. I've seen people with binders and shelves of just photo cards, and I'm like, that is crazy. Like, stunning. Crazy. Does anyone even look at the photo cards more than once after collecting? Like, it just sits on your desk and you will never look at it again. People are just buying limited edition cards just so they can say they're one of the lucky few that have these cards, or in some cases, buying a ton of cards just to resell them to other vulnerable fans for wild prices. I've seen a card that has been marked up as $800. One card. I see this as just another predatory practice by the K-pop industry. They just want to make money and don't care about hurting people in the process. There are people that are okay with collecting a few cards and not wanting more, but then there are others who just take it to the extreme. There's a running joke I've heard in the K-pop community that once you start collecting, you'll never stop. I just feel bad for these fans that are spending their money on pieces of paper, like actual paper, and what do they get out of it? The companies are not going to stop this business model because clearly it's still working. They're actively preying on these younger fans with more addictive personalities and reaping the benefits for themselves. There needs to be a huge focus on mental health advocacy by the K-pop industry. Again, this point is pretty clear if you've been around K-pop long enough. There are plenty of stories of idols who have unalived themselves, and people always wonder if the idol lifestyle had to do with it. A recent example being Moonbin of Astro. He was only 25 years old. He had mental issues he was going through and physical issues as well, but of course his company didn't care that much. While the mental health of the idol is not completely the responsibility of the company, they have a responsibility to look after their employees. The idols are the money makers here. If they're the product you're trying to sell, why don't you make sure that the product is in a good condition? It's just sad to see that companies are much more willing to overwork their idols to the bone so that the cash flows in, but when the idol comes to them about issues, they just don't acknowledge or just move on. Let me know if y'all have examples of companies that actually advocate for mental health awareness, because I haven't seen any. The only example I've seen is KQ and their group ATEEZ. One of the members, Mingi, has battled with anxiety issues and went on a little hiatus for a while, which I thought was a pretty good decision on the company's part and how they handle it. But ATEEZ are still very overworked and fatigued. Members are constantly getting injuries and having to sit out of events and concerts. It's really sad that this is the standard. It also seems like very few idols are comfortable coming out about their mental issues. One I can think of who's brave enough to be forward about their issues is Sunmi. She has songs about borderline personality disorder, and she's talked about it in a show. But in that same show, she was talking about how it's hard for idols to come forward about these things. I think it stems from the culture she grew up around, but also the fact that the industry just doesn't care. The industry operates under the statement that mental health should not be talked about, only hidden. Pretend you're completely fine, but you're actually struggling. If there was more of an emphasis on encouraging idols to come forward about struggles and actually listening to them talk about it and helping them, then idols would be in better conditions and not have to have a hiatus every now and then. Overall, lots of things need to change in the industry. That being said, let me know if I should do a part 3, and bye guys!